All right, let's talk about investing. But forget stocks and bonds for a minute. We're diving into something you can actually hold in your hands, and maybe even drink if you're brave enough. I'm talking about whiskey. Yep, it's not just for sipping anymore. It's become a serious alternative investment, especially with traditional markets looking kind of shaky heading into 2025. So let's get into what some are calling liquid gold. Okay, I'm just going to put a number out there. $2.7 million. Just let that sink in for a moment. So what was that number? That was the price tag for one single bottle of Macallan whiskey sold late last year. One bottle. If you ever needed a sign that the fine whiskey market is absolutely exploding, this is it. I mean, we're talking about an asset class that's seriously outperforming expectations, and frankly, it's making traditional stocks look a little, well, boring as we look ahead to 2025. Okay, so before we jump into the deep end and start talking strategy, we've got to get the basics down. You can't play the game if you don't know the rules. And in the world of whiskey investing, speaking the language is step number one. All right, first things first. The spelling. Seems like a tiny detail, right? Whiskey with no E versus whiskey with an E. But trust me, in this world, it's a huge deal. Whiskey, no E, that's your stuff from Scotland, Japan, and Canada. Whiskey with the E, that's from Ireland and the US. So why should you, as an investor, care? Well, here's the kicker. Pretty much all of those eye-watering, record-shattering bottles, they're almost always Scottish or Japanese whiskey. That little E makes a world of difference to the price tag. And let's quickly run through a few more key terms you'll hear. A cask, that's just the wooden barrel where all the magic happens, where the spirit matures. A single malt is the big one for collectors. It means it's from a single distillery using one type of malted grain. And new mix spirit? Think of it as the baby whiskey. It's the clear, potent liquid right before it goes into that cask to start its long journey of aging. Simple enough, right? Also, okay, so now that we're all speaking the same language, let's take a trip back in time. Because to really understand how to invest smart today, you have to know about this market's absolutely wild history. Seriously, it's a roller coaster ride. And trust me, there are some major lessons to be learned. Man, this timeline tells such an amazing story. So picture this. Back in the 60s through the 80s, there's this huge boom, which leads to a massive bust. Distilleries were pumping out way too much product, and a bunch of them had to shut down. But what happened to all that extra whiskey? It just sat there, in casks, aging. Then you get to the 90s, and it's a total glut. You could have snagged a cask of Macallan for like 3,000 pounds, but nobody cared, you couldn't give it away. Fast forward to the 2000s, the internet comes along and suddenly people are getting interested again. And then the 2010s. This is when it gets crazy. All that whiskey from the 80s and 90s is now perfectly aged and incredibly rare. Early investors who got in on that, we're talking returns of 30, 40 times their initial investment. It's insane. And that momentum just keeps building to where we are today, with records being broken left and right. So what's the big takeaway from all that history? A few really important things. First, the king of the hill can change. Macallan shot past Dalmore to become the top name, so nothing's set in stone. Second, this market is volatile. It has huge peaks and deep valleys. Third, and this is super important for anyone thinking about investing now, today's sky-high prices kind of have future growth already baked in. And finally, just buying a big brand name isn't enough. It's all about specific releases. You have to do your homework, seriously. All right, enough history. Let's get practical. This is your investor playbook. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how you actually go about buying this stuff. This is the big question, right? So where on earth do you find these bottles? I mean, you can't just stroll into your local liquor store and grab $1 million whiskey off the shelf. So what are your options? Okay, you've basically got 4 main ways to do this, and each one has its pros and cons. You can go the retail route, which is easy, but you're going to pay some massive markups. Then there are auctions. This is where you find the super rare stuff, but prices can go through the roof and the fees aren't cheap. Path number 3 is a private sale through a broker. You might find some cool off-market deals and avoid some taxes, but remember, you're dealing with very savvy sellers. And finally, you can try to buy directly from the distillery. This gets you the best price, but good luck. It's often like trying to get tickets for a massive concert. You have to win a ballot just for the privilege of buying a bottle. So we've covered where to buy. Now let's talk about how to buy smarter. Because let me tell you, the market today isn't the same beast it was 10 years ago. Your strategy needs to be different. Yeah, this quote here really hits the nail on the head. The market's grown up. It's more Efficient, which is just a fancy way of saying there are a lot more smart people in the game. What does that mean for you? It means those wild, almost unbelievable 500% returns from the last big boom, they're probably not coming back. The easy money days are likely over. It's time to be more calculated. So with that in mind, here are 4 absolutely key tips for investing in 2025. Number 1, do your homework. I mean, deep research. Don't just see a price, understand the story and the context behind that price. Number 2, think about buying casks, not just bottles. It's a much longer game, sure, but the tax benefits can be huge. Number 3, know your own risk tolerance. The biggest potential returns, they often come from the riskiest plays, like investing in a brand new distillery. And number 4, and this is a big one, don't believe the hype. If some investment fund is promising you the kind of returns we saw back at the 2018 peak, run the other way. Be very skeptical. But it's not all doom and gloom. Looking to the future, there are actually some really strong signs that the market will stay healthy. You've got emerging markets like India and China, where the demand for luxury goods is just taking off. Then, if interest rates do fall in 2025, like many are predicting, that's going to push more money into alternative assets like this. And maybe most interestingly, you've got a whole new generation of buyers, millennials, who are all about authenticity and craft, which is exactly what fine whiskey delivers. Which brings us to the big $1 million or maybe $2.7 million question. After all this, where do you stand? Do you see a solid market here for smart investors, a genuine class of liquid gold? Or are we all just watching a massive glittering bubble that's getting ready to pop? I guess the answer to that is going to shape the world of investing for years to come.